Grace, peace, and mercy to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. You know, I was sitting here thinking that I had to do a video just looking at our people and just contemplating the decisions we make and how we behave. One thing is so clear to me, and that is we've been slaves so long we think that we are free. Again, I'll say it again, we have been slaves so long that we think that we are free. We've forgotten how we got here. We've forgotten that we are a nation within a nation. And I'm not talking about from a socialistic or a communist perspective. I'm talking, I always speak from a biblical perspective for the most part. I mean, we are a nation within a nation. We are people who have been stripped from our land, our culture, our heritage, our culture, our religion, our language. Everything, our history has been stripped from us. And we act as if somehow we are now a part of this American dream that we can see now turning into a nightmare. This is not our country. I don't care how long we've been here. Yes, we built it. Yes, it was built on our backs, the last backs of our ancestors who were slaves. Yes, we made this country what it is. And we have not received any reparations or any true acknowledgement for what we've done or any payment for what has been taken from us as a people. No. And we act as if somehow we are a part of this American dream. This is a nightmare. And what you see right now, especially now, you can't tell our people anything with the election of President Barack Obama twice now. So now, because one person who is not a descendant of slaves, by the way, one person who has ascended into the highest office of American empire, you know, he's the face of white supremacy. So now that he's there, that means that all of a sudden we have arrived. See, some of our leaders took us down the wrong path because they did not understand the spiritual implications of our problem. Our problem is not economic. Our problem is not dealing with education per se. Yes, we struggle in these areas, but the root of the problem is we are the children of Israel, and we have turned our back on our God. Now that sounds crazy to a lot of people. That sounds like, you know, some kind of just some madness that somebody may be spouting off, because it goes against the common narrative. Okay, the common narrative is that, hey, we were Africans and we, you know, they took us from Africa, or some say the Africans sold us. Well, there were a lot of people involved in the slave trade. But the thing is, people don't realize is that the Holy Bible, that Bible that you take to church and read a verse out of, or half a verse, every Sunday, which is the wrong day, that's not God's Sabbath, that's a whole other thing. That same book tells you who you actually are. You're not colored, you're not black, you're not an African American or Afro-American. You're not an American. Yes, you live in America. Yes, you have some second-class citizenship in America. But the Bible tells you who you actually are. I know that may sound strange, so I'm just going to read it. I'm going to read it to you. Because it's not a, you know, there's something peculiar about the so-called African American. They're in a position that nobody else is in. We are people who don't know who we are. And the reason we don't know who we are, because, again, that goes back to that spiritual problem that I'm going to deal with right now. We turn from our God, and therefore He gave us over to these other nations. And here we sit in America thinking that we are part of this, when in every way other people whose nation this actually is, because we are not, let's be honest, we are not this peaceful melting pot. That's not the American narrative. America itself was built on genocide and slavery. That's the bottom line. Genocide of the indigenous peoples here and slavery. That's how this nation was made. It was made through sheer violence, and it will continue to be that way. That hasn't changed. Even though we went through the civil rights movement, and we had we had integration, which was actually not integration at all. It was amalgamation. We turned everything over to those other people. See, true integration. If it was true integration, you would see white folks move. I'm not talking about gentrification when white folks move into our neighborhoods. I'm talking about they would want to live with us like we live with them. They would want to go to our schools like we want to go to their schools. They would share their money. That's integration. They would allow us to have businesses in their neighborhoods and support them. That's integration. What we did was amalgamation. And we still have not benefited. And we are in a worse condition mentally than ever. Even in comparison to the times of slavery. See, one thing, a slave, a physical slave, knew that he was a slave. Today, we are still slaves. And we don't realize it. You say that's kind of harsh. But you still have never gone home. See, you've never gone home. Once you have what was taken from you, then you're not a slave anymore. And what was taken from you was everything. And something else was given to you. Even another religion. That's why you're Baptist. That's why you're Catholic. That's why you're Methodist. That's why you're Episcopalian. Because you have taken on the false religion of another people. But let's hear what the prophet Moses had to say. What happened to us. And I want you to compare it to our condition and see if it lines up. Let's see if it lines up. So we want to start off in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, and verse 15, because there are always consequences when you don't do what God is telling you to do. Verse 15 of Deuteronomy 28 reads, "But it shall come to pass, that thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." So the consequence for being lawless, the consequence for not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of God, curses. Let's read these curses and see if we don't fit these curses. Verse 16, "Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field." Think about our experience in America, because Israel, again, is a black people that have been scattered into slavery all over the world. Here in America, what has been our condition? Many of us are 1 or 2 generations removed from those of us, our ancestors, our forefathers, who lived in the South, right? On plantations, picking cotton, tobacco, rice, whatever it was, on some plantation, not prospering. Okay? Cursed in the field. Then what do? We moved into these urban jails we call cities. Right? These hyper ghettos. And that's where we're at now. We're in these ghettos. We came here for jobs and prosperity, and what do we have? Crime, drugs, violence, substandard housing, substandard education. That's the experience of the average black urban dweller. Yes, we have some that are doing better, but as a whole, this is our condition. Cursed in the city, cursed in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. So economically, you're going to be cursed. Look at us. Look at us. In 1865, right out of slavery, blacks in this country had 1/2 of 1% of the nation's wealth. Today, approximately, we have 1/2 of 1% of the nation's wealth. I'm not talking about money that you go spend on Jordans. I'm talking about actual wealth. When you compare white wealth and black wealth, it's such a disparity. We have money. But that money, as soon as we get it, goes directly into another people's hands. See, that's a people that are not thinking like a nation. We are a nation within a nation. That's how we need to start thinking. So it said, "Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body." This is verse 18. "And the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep." So what you have will be cursed. Everything you have, including your children. Look at our children. Who fills the juvenile detention centers? Our children. Who is graduating at 50%? Graduation rates, our children. Who is getting killed in the streets? You look at Chicago. Look at Chicago this year. And other cities, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Black people dropping like flies. These are young black men. These are your children. Look at our young women. Look at our young teenage women who are, many of them are filled with anger and avoid their, not because they don't have fathers or whatever, for various other reasons. Teenage pregnancies, abortions, you see, total role reversals. All these things, these are our children. Where you're almost scared to talk to. Some older people scared to talk to the young because they're scared they're going to do something to them. And they might. But see, we dropped the ball. And we didn't just drop the ball a generation ago. We dropped the ball right here, what Moses is talking about, because we refused to keep the law, statutes, and commandments of God. And as I read, you're gonna see yourself. So it said, cursed shalt be, this is verse 19, cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. So regardless of what the circumstance is, on your job, whatever it is, you're going to be cursed. And you're not going to understand. That's why we don't understand why we are in the position we're in. Because we don't understand this book, and we have to get back to the book. This is our history book. I'm talking about particularly so-called African Americans in this country. This is our history book, and this is our guide to living. Now, there is a commonwealth in Israel. Anybody of any nation want to get with the program, they can get with this commonwealth, but we are a nation within a nation, and we need to act as such. Let's skip down to verse 30. Because this is Moses prophesying even before the children of Israel went into the promised land. He said, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Is not this the American experience of our experience during slavery? Isn't this not the black slave experience? Where it says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Our marriages weren't accepted. And this is not talking about somebody just committing adultery behind a man's back. No, this is talking about a man coming to another man, telling him to leave so he could sleep with his wife. You see, this is what happened wholesale during slavery. This is why we are so many shades. It's because of this. I'm going to read this again. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. That's what happened to us. The rape, it was the slave woman. Our women they were not protected at all. They were not protected at all. It says, and thou shalt build in a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Who built the plantation, the big house? We built those. We built the whole country. And we dwelt in the shacks. We shivered when it was cold because we were half clothed and half naked and half fed, depending on the mercy of the slave master. See, that was us. We dwelt in shacks, but we built mansions. We built the White House. It says, thou shalt plant a vineyard and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Again, we planted on those plantations. We gathered those billions of barrels of cotton. We did that. We did that. This is verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Our children were sold on auction blocks. Even to add injury to insult, after many of our women were raped, and they had children by these essentially slave masters. The children were taken and sold because of the mistress would be jealous or couldn't have that shame, so they demanded that the child would be sold. Or at the whim of a slave master, if he had some debt, he would sell a slave. Not a big deal. I read accounts where they were sold right off the woman's breast.
children. So right off the bat, this is a book you should get into. Egypt Begin with Ships, a message to the forgotten Israelites, African Americans. This is a book that deals with this wholesale. That's something that's available on Amazon. You can go to IsraelTeach and get it. You can also go to barnesandnobles.com and get it. But that's a book that, for one, I want to say that I was surprised. I wrote it and I was surprised that so many people bought it. I mean, literally thousands of people. So I really appreciate that. And again, it talks about our condition. It was something that the Lord put on my heart. I wasn't expecting for people to actually buy it as they did. It was just something I was doing, writing, and just people that have contacted me from all over the country and from other places. I just appreciate it. So this book deals with that in detail. Again, that's Enter Egypt Begin with Ships. But again, verse 32, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fill with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Let's skip down. Verse 37. Verse 36, the Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods of wood and stone. So that's where we're at now, serving other gods of wood and stone. We, believe it or not, we had a king, David, Solomon. Those were our kings, believe it or not. Those were our kings, okay? And the King of Kings, Jesus, is our king. Who's coming? Verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. And that's where we are. A byword, and a proverb, an astonishment, wherever we at. As soon as you move into a neighborhood, the for sale signs will go up. And we keep on following after these people who can't stand us. I don't care, you know, and now it's not, you know, it's not the physicality involved, but you have a whole system built on institutional racism. You know, you have a prison industrial complex. You know, you economically shut out, inferior education. You know, you have these things already in place. And when they look at you, when they look at us, when they see us coming, they can't understand why we are in a position where they don't want to be around us. And they call us bywords. Nigga, coon, all darky, all these words. This is so many racial epithets dealing with us. It'd take me 30 minutes just to go through them. But see, that's what Moses said would happen. Again, this is our history. Verse 41, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Okay? And let's read verse 45, or verse 46. Verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. Again, this is a consequence for sin. And they, verse 46, understand, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So that is how you know who Israel is, the curse. See, the people who claim to be the children of Israel now, they're rich. They have more money than most people per capita. They are sitting high on the horse, so to speak, in the midst of their enemies. You see, they are treated in a very different way. They're not cursed. You see, their economy is not cursed for sure. They're the ones, a lot of times, that run Hollywood. They run the banks, jewelry, etc. And this is not a hate thing against anybody. That's just the reality. Verse. Let's skip down to verse. I suggest you read Deuteronomy 28 on your own. For time's sake, I'm going to skip around. Verse 63. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. That means nothing. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. See, you've been a slave so long. You think that you're free. You forgot that you had a homeland. Your homeland is Israel, not America. Not Canada, not Great Britain, not Brazil, not the Caribbean. Israel. Verse 64, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. Again, we all over. From the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. That's why we walking around, you know, we just got done with Christmas, and you know, which is soul invictus. That's why you have, you know, that's all about the unconquerable sun. And then you got, you know, New Year. You got black folks going out celebrating. But that's in honor that, if you look at it, the honor of Janus, the god of new beginnings. That was instituted by Julius Caesar, January, and then perpetuated by Pope Gregory. Okay, so that, you know, that's falsehood. But that's what we go for now. Because he said we would take on these gods of wood and of stone, these other religions, these other false doctrines. Verse 65. And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the soles of thy feet have rest, but thou shalt give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. That's our mindset. Psychologically damaged. Psychologically stressed. 66. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. That's how we live every day. That's how we live every day. Whether you're talking about the Ku Klux Klan back in the days of old, after the time of Reconstruction, or if you're talking about many of the police, not all the police, but a lot of them today, or just living how we live. Our life is threatened all the time. It says, in the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning, for the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Now understand the verse I'm about to read next, because if you don't see yourself in this, you might as well just go to another page. Verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Now Egypt represents the house of bondage. That was our first bondage. So when he says Egypt, he's talking about, he's going to bring you into bondage again with ships. What kind of ships? Slave ships. Kind of, I'll show you this picture in the front of this book. As you can see, that's the Brooks slave ship diagram. Okay? That's the slavery, if you can see. We were packed on ships like sardines in a can. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you, meaning no man is going to redeem you. Not Martin, not Malcolm, not Marcus, not Booker T, not W.E.B., definitely not Jesse, and definitely not Al Sharpton. Okay, so you forget that. All right. So, you know, this begs the question: if we are the children of Israel, who are the people that are claiming to be God's chosen people today? Again, the book tells us. The book gives you insight into this. This is our history book, but it's not just a history book. It's a book of prophecy. It's telling you what was, what is, and what shall be. This is Revelation 2 and 9. John the Revelator says, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So he says, I know, talking to the true Israelites, those black people that have been scattered into slavery all through the earth. He says, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, meaning we are rich spiritually, because unto us were given the oracles of God. That's what evangelists just have to do. Much chiefly in every way, for unto him were committed the oracles of God. That's what Paul says. Read in Amos, only you have I known throughout all the nations of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity. See, the Lord is, it's not a coincidence that all the prophets are Israelites. That Paul was an Israelite, that the disciples were Israelites. You know, that's because that's who has the word of God. And if you want the true word of God, that's who you got to go through. So it says, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich spiritually. And I know the blasphemy, cause of blasphemy, of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So you have some people proclaiming to be Jews. All right? And to be a Jew means you're from the tribe of Judah. Okay? So they claiming to be, you know, they say it's Judaism as if that's a religion. You can't read Judaism in the scriptures. Okay? What you have is, you have Jesus was a Jew, not because he practiced Judaism, but rather because he was from the tribe of Judah. He was that line of the tribe of Judah. So that's one of the 12 tribes of Israel. So you have people proclaiming to be, this is the Bible. So don't discount it. Read it for yourself. And understand. Understand this. Let's go to Deuteronomy 30th chapter. For lack of time, I'll skip. You can read Revelation 3 and 9. He says it on your, again, read that on your own, about the blasphemy of them would say they are Jews and are not. This is Deuteronomy 30. Because we are embarking upon a time in which these dry bones in the valley are going to wake up, and our consciousness is going to be revived. Deuteronomy 30:1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. I didn't even read about the blessing because it was only for a short time. I read about the curses that will come upon us in Deuteronomy 28th chapter. The blessing and the curse which I have said before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither the Lord thy God shall have driven thee. And thou shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul. So we're going to turn back to God. That's why I said, if my people are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray, turn and seek my face, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. See, that's going to happen the final time. Verse 3. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity. See, we're still in captivity. You're not home. America not your home. And have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, including America, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. Okay? If any of thine be driven out unto the outermost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from this will he fetch thee. And it's that time, because we're fast approaching the time of the second coming of the Messiah. Well, our King is coming back, and he's going to redeem us. Read in Matthew the 24th chapter, read verses 29 through 31. And so he's coming back to gather his elect. And so we have to start waking up. We have to start coming to the knowledge of self and who we are. But why don't we know it now? Why don't we know it now? This is last one, Deuteronomy 32. Because we've been slaves so long, we think we're free. We've totally forgotten who we are. Deuteronomy 32:26. I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. So that's why we don't have consciousness of who we are. But God's word is calling us. God's word is calling us. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. Because you've been a slave so long, you think that you're free.